morning and welcome to Cover 2 Cook. We're going to recap this weekend's of NFL football on Sunday and Monday night. We had two games on Monday night. We had a full day of games on Sunday. We're also going to talk about a little bit of the news in the NFL. It'll be more NFL driven today. We'll talk more college football when we come back on Saturday, but this will be NFL based. But before I get too far, let me bring on my co-host, Mr. Tim Cook. How you doing today?
I am doing good. Sunday NFL games. The Monday night one, that first one, that wasn't really the greatest. But that Monday night second game, that one was like a track meet. So I'm interested to get it going.
Definitely agree. Our first game that we talked about was Eagles and Buccaneers. And unfortunately, the Eagles, man, without A.J. Brown and without Devontae Smith, no Lane Johnson, really struggled. But we'll have to talk about the Tom Brady, Baker Mayfield situation. But what do you think about this game?
I thought Baker came out just cooking. I mean, he got healthy against the Eagles. He threw for 347 and 2 touchdowns. Eagles didn't look good without Brown and Smith. And I think that Coach Sirianni might be on the hot seat. It's a good thing that they're on a bye this week because maybe they can get some things situated around. I mean, they still got Saquon Barkley, but I think they're going to have to get things. Jalen Hurts just does not look comfortable in the pocket. I don't know if it's because they're still trying to get used to not having Jason Kelsey or what's going on, but they're not, and that defense, holy Christ. They just put a beat down. I mean, Mayfield got to do anything. He had a rushing touchdown and he could just throw the ball. So, they got Mike Evans going again. I mean, they got healthy really quick.
I definitely agree. I said that Mike Evans needed to be brought back, need to be brought back into the game plan. He had to have a big game for them. Honestly, all the wide receivers did. Chris Godwin had 69 yards. Mike Evans had 94 yards. Cade Otton, the freaking tight end, had 52. Sterling Shepard had 51. They couldn't stop the passing game. I mean, Baker Mayfield having 347 yards of passing was essentially it. I wonder what's happening in the Eagles. I'm trying to listen to like some of these analysts and talking about like, is there some animosity between Sirianni and Jalen Hurts? I mean, the fact that Jalen Hurts almost had as many rushes as Saquon Barkley, that's a problem. I mean, and don't get me wrong, some of these are not designed run. It's him taking off, but Jalen Hurts had 8 carries and Saquon Barkley only had 10. I mean, when you go down 14-0 right off the bat, it's hard to run the ball, right? Because now you got to throw the ball, and they're passing. It just isn't open. I mean, Saquon had 2 catches. Dallas Goedert had 7 catches for 62. But it don't matter how your offense plays if your defense gives up 14 points like it was nothing. Baker Mayfield is a great quarterback, or is a good quarterback, but with that defense, it made him look like he was a great quarterback.
Yeah, they brought in the new OC and Kellen Moore. They're just not on the same page with what's going on. I mean, I don't know what's going on, but they're just not on the same page right now. And they've got this bye week to kind of maybe figure things out. But they better get it figured out really quick, or Sirianni he might not make November. I mean, this is kind of getting kind of serious because they're just so. I mean, even last week, the week before they get the Saints, they had 15 points, 16. I mean, they won, but they're just struggling getting the ball down the field. I mean, it hurts when you don't have Brown and Devontae Smith. I mean, they don't have anybody that can catch the ball. I mean, they got Goddard. That's it. I mean, they've got a couple other no names, but they just can't get the ball down the field.
Yeah, and I think your biggest thing too is we talked about before this game that watch out for that defense, the defensive line of the Eagles versus that offensive line of the Buccaneers. Baker got sacked for had 2 sacks on him, but then Jalen Hurts had 6 sacks on him. I mean, the offensive line for the Eagles gave up 6 sacks. Now you lose your all pro left tackle Lane Johnson that he didn't play in that game, but still, I mean, the defensive line for the Eagles just looked tired, and the defense coordinators, it's Vic, right? Fangio.
Yeah, Vic Fangio, yes.
And they just didn't look like they were rotating. I don't know how to like deep dive into that. I'm not a guru when it comes to that, but like when your defensive line just pops right up after the ball is snapped, I mean, you're not getting pressure, and he depends on that pressure because he sits back and cover, or and cover 2, cover 3. He sits back on that, and then if those 4 ain't getting any pressure, well, Baker just gonna pick you apart then. And so that's exactly what happened. I mean, going 14-0, but I wanted to talk about the Tom Brady Baker Mayfield situation where everyone's kind of talking about during the game. Did you hear about that?
I did not. If you would enlighten me.
So Baker Mayfield, there was a comment made during the game that Baker Mayfield said that when Tom was here in the Buccaneers, that it was a little serious, and he kind of wants guys to start having a little bit more fun instead of being so serious. Well, Tom Brady, commentator of the game, obviously hears this. Competitive drive comes right back into an instant, and he says, well, I didn't know that, or what does he say? Winning Super Bowls is fun. He goes, I don't know what not having fun without winning Super Bowls. He goes, if I wanted to have fun, I'd take my kids to Disney World. And it was like one of these things where Baker Mayfield, I get it. Lots going on, and you want to be a leader and all that, but like we hear this word, we hear this phrase, the Patriots way, where it was just all serious and it was game time. I don't believe that Tom Brady was like a dick all the time. I just think he was a dick when it was time to play. And I think that's the difference between a little bit of like the winning and not winning, because I think the Chiefs have fun. The Chiefs have fun, but when it's time to focus, it's time to focus. And I think where you say Patriots way, but it was just Belichick was no mess around, didn't have any. Nick Saban was the same way at Alabama. It's about being serious when it's time to be serious. So I get what Baker's saying, but still.
Yeah, and he's got 7 Super Bowl rings to back that up. How many's Baker Mayfield got? 0. So I mean, that's you've really got to. People drive towards that. If Tom Brady can get me a Super Bowl ring, I'm gonna go play for this guy because he's serious. He demands respect from him, and he'll give you respect back if you're playing up to his standard. And maybe his standards are tougher than nowadays. It's just like anything else. Well, you don't need to be that hard on. And then it becomes it gets old after. I mean, and sometimes after a while, that players start tuning that out. I think that's what happened to. I think that's what happened to Belichick. I think the players nowadays start tuning them out, and you don't have Tom Brady to say, "Hey, come on, guys, he is pretty good." Blah blah blah. They didn't have it anymore at the Patriots. So
yeah, and I don't know if Baker even meant it to be a dig. I just think that you could just see that Tom Brady, within an instant of hearing that, the competitive flow just came right back to him.
Oh, I bet. Oh, yeah. Right.
It was one of those moments where Tom Brady in that moment was like, no. I won Super Bowls. So if you want to say about seriousness, I won one even here. And it was like, yeah, that was, but it was kind of cool to hear that. This is why we wanted Tom Brady in the commentating, was because we want to hear that still. We still want to, I mean, nothing against it, but Troy Aikman, been a while since he played the game. What was the other one that came? The other Cowboys one, Tony Romo.
Right.
Like, it's been a while, bud. So like the competitiveness is kind of ended. Dan Orlowski, unless he's running out the back of the end zone.
Right.
So, but Tom Brady in there, it's kind of good to see. You see this with Greg Olson. You see this with other commentators, but Tom Brady is the GOAT. So, but that also, that game, we move on to the night game. Bills versus Ravens. And the big question before this game is can they keep Derrick Henry healthy and hungry for the ball? Well, guess what? 199 yards later, he obviously showed he's like 23 years old again. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, that first play right off the bat ran for 87 yards. Both the running backs, even him and Lamar, it just seemed like they were just standing still. That defense of the Buffalo Bills, it was like, oh my gosh, and that was the deal. I mean, they just started putting it on them, and even the Baltimore defense started getting pressure on Josh Allen. He was throwing a lot of balls. He was trying to run from the out of bounds, trying to run from him, and he was throwing almost out of bounds to get plays out. He did make one good play, I think, in the second half where he threw one down the field. But other than that, I mean, they just, it just was just a rout. I mean, they came ready to play, and finally we found out who the real Buffalo Bills is. They couldn't keep going up like that. But one thing I did notice is the rule, which I don't know if everybody knows that you cannot call back-to-back timeouts in a game. Once you call one, you cannot call one back to back, and that is a delay of penalty, and that's a 5-yard penalty. So I don't know if some of our viewers, caught that that is a penalty. So
Yeah, I saw Harbaugh do that, and then they kept the camera on him, and I think they regretted that because
yeah,
about every third word was the F bomb. Just being pissed about it. But I mean,
yeah,
it was. I didn't know that. I didn't know that going into the game. After they did it, I don't remember. I think that's like they try to prevent this from like icing kickers, where they have all 3 timeouts.
right, right.
You're just wasting time. Come on, let's get it going. And that wasn't even what that situation was. It was just they called timeout, and they looked out there and they had a misformation, and they called another one. And it was like boom.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. And even Justice Hill for the Baltimore, showed up in this game. 6 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown. He looked good. If you had the wide receivers for Baltimore for fantasy going into this game, you were like, okay, we might see some because it's gonna be a high scoring game. Yeah, you just weren't used. I mean, Rashad Bateman had 1 catch. Derrick Henry the running backs had more catches than the wide receivers. Justice Hill had 6. Derrick Henry had 3. 9 catches out of the backfield. No other wide receiver, all combined, didn't have the same. That was kind of a big thing, but I do agree. I think Buffalo kind of got the pressure the defensive line gave that Kyle Von Noor or whatever for Baltimore. He got to him, and there was one hit where I think they did a trick play, and Josh Allen threw it down the middle of the field, it got smacked out of his hand, and he got drilled. I mean, his head bounced off the field, and it was like, damn. That's when it kind of went to, you saw Mr. Trubisky kind of come in, but James Cook was not utilized in this game for Buffalo. I understand that they kind of like when they're winning, they can use him more often and out of the backfield or running the ball. They didn't use him as much. I felt like he only had 9 carries this game. But I definitely think you saw in this game, they kind of miss having a solid number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think that's where going into this, like, I don't know if the Ravens are a playoff team. I mean, I don't know if they can kind of dig themselves out of that 0-2. I would imagine they can, but who knows? But
well, in that division that they're in, Anthony, I don't see why not they couldn't. If they can play defense like that and they could keep the running attack like that and dink down the field with Lamar throwing the ball, I don't see no reason why they can't. But here's the deal: you got to go through the Chiefs.
Well, and that's the thing I will say is, yeah, I mean, in the playoffs, you're going to have to go through the Chiefs, but to even get there, I mean, I don't think I'm a believer in the Ravens because of this game. I think this was a game that was hyped up at home for them. I think the Dallas team they played was a bad Dallas team. This Buffalo team, I think they just got them on a bad day, or got them on a good day, I guess, for Ravens fans, but got Buffalo on a bad day. I mean, you got to think about it. Rashad Bateman had 1 catch. Isaiah Likely had 1 catch. 1 was for 23 and 1 was for 26. Those are bigger plays, don't get me wrong, after you had a 87 or whatever 78-yard rush by Derrick Henry to start the game. I just don't know if you can, and that's what amazes me is Derrick Henry. I mean, the man is, I think he's 30. I think he's 30 on the dot. I think I'm the same age as him. And you would imagine throughout the game taking those hits that he's going to slow down. And he's outrunning corners, like outrunning them.
Yeah, that 87-yard touchdown it's just like, and it doesn't look like he's running that fast. I thought for sure one of the corners was going to catch him, and he just glides. He don't run hard. He just like glides over the football field. He is one extraordinary kind of person of running. He doesn't look very fast, and next thing you know, he's in the touchdown. So it's really phenomenal, I think.
Yeah, I saw a meme that was like, when the genetics just hit perfectly, that's who gets created right there. Is Derrick Henry, someone that big, 260 some pounds, running that fast? That is, I mean, I remember listening to the game and the commentator was bringing up like Eric Dickerson compared to him, and it was like, there is no running back like him. I mean, like, he is a mix of kind of like a bus, Jamal Lewis back in the day, where they were bigger guys, but then didn't have the speed that Derrick Henry has. And the fact that he's 30 and Tennessee wanted to get rid of him because they didn't think he had it in the tank anymore, and he proves this. It was a good game on Baltimore side, but obviously the Buffalo. If I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, I'm not worried.
No,
I think this is a game that it wasn't a great one, but I think you still have a lot in the tank. I think Josh Allen's going to help you. That offensive coordinator has been great since he got there. So I think if you're a Buffalo fan, oh man, sucks to get your ass beat like that on national television. But I don't think it's one of these things where it's the end of the world of what happened.
No, I definitely agree. I think they'll bounce back. I mean, I think it just might just been a one-off. They played the Dolphins the week previous, and they just, which we found out last night, the Dolphins are not very good.
Yeah,
so
the injuries on that situation stinks. But speaking of last night, we talk about Seahawks versus Lions. I will say that was the good game of the night for sure. Out of the Tennessee Titans and Dolphins, you got the Seahawks versus Lions, but it kind of came down to a little bit of who had the ball last. But it just seemed like every time the Seahawks would do something good, the Lions would say, we can do it better. And then they would come out and score. So, but it was a good game. What'd you think about that game?
I thought the Seahawks would just played from behind the whole game. And, they would get, the Lions they go down and score. They got it to 14-7. Then the Lions come back 21-7. And in the second half, they came out and they went right down the field, the Seahawks. I don't know what you thought of this, but when they went for two, I don't know if I agree with that. You're down 14. I get it. You can try to get the 6. If you score again, you hold them, then you can kick the extra point for the win to take the lead. But I think you're just you're chasing points. Why don't you just kick the extra point? Now you're down 7. If you have to stop them, which they hadn't stopped them all night, now you're going to go down, and if you score again, you can tie it or go for the 2 and take the lead there by 1 point. I just don't know if I like teams trying to chase points. I just don't know if that's really what. And then it ended up being that they didn't catch them at all because they go down and get it within 8, and then they go down and score right back again. I love that hook and, or not really hook and ladder. Well, the hook and ladder one. I did like that one from this. Was that the Seahawks that did that? Not really the hook and ladder, but then they threw it behind them and they got like 16 more yards. And then the Amari St. Brown pass to Goff. Boy, that's pretty dangerous. You get him hurt, and that could be very dangerous. Now you're talking. What are you doing? Doing stuff like that. I just thought they were just like trying to catch up on points the whole night.
Yeah, I mean, the analytics come into that one when it's 14-point difference. When you score, if you go for 2 and get 8 there, now you can win the game. If you don't, you're going to go for 2 anyways. I see the side of it. I do it. It's an aggressive way to play the game. But I definitely agree. I think when you look at this game, I mean, Jared Goff went 18 for 18. Went perfect. 292 yards, 2 touchdowns. But the touchdown
and not to interrupt you, Anthony, but you know who got the game ball?
I didn't. I know it wasn't Goff. Hearing about it.
It wasn't Goff. It was Jameson Williams. This guy threw for 18 and it couldn't even get a game ball for that.
Yeah, I heard the
coach. It was an NFL record.
Yeah, I heard the coach after the game go, well, I didn't know he went perfect. Well, I should have gave him. I feel bad. No, I didn't give him the game ball.
What do you mean you don't know? Come on, man.
I think Goff doesn't. I don't think Goff cares, honestly.
Oh, I don't think so either. I don't think so either. He's pretty mild.
It's a win, and when it's a win like that, I mean, when it's a good team, you're playing like that, an undefeated team at the time, I don't think it cares. He cares. Now, I did laugh. I saw a meme today that was saying that Jared Goff is the first person to throw a perfect game in Detroit, because the Detroit Tigers have never had a perfect pitcher.
Right.
I do agree, but even the Jared Goff touchdown catch, I mean, last second putting his hands up to catch it, that linebacker was not far from him. If he put his hands out early, and he's going to probably get it smacked away. It was a great, pro move, I mean, by Jared Goff. I just think Jared Goff is the perfect person in Detroit. I mean, it's just, he is what what they wanted. I mean, what I mean by that is, he's a hard-nosed person. There's only one other person I think that could be in Detroit, and if had success would be perfect for Detroit, is Baker Mayfield. But Jared Goff knows that he's went through some shit in his career in NFL, and he's going to give every play like it's his last. So I do like that about him. I mean, going 18 for 18, but I think the biggest thing about this game was 116 rushing yards between the 2 running backs. I mean, Seattle it just seemed like every time Seattle would have a good play or get a stop, they would run the ball and get it. And then anytime they got close to the red zone, it was no doubt touchdowns.
Yeah. I thought Montgomery and Gibbs, that 1-2 punch. Did you see the Montgomery hit that he laid on that strong safety guy right at the out of bounds? He just leveled him.
Yeah, and then you look on the other side for Seattle. Kenneth Walker with 12 carries for 80 yards. I mean, 3 touchdowns coming back after the injury. I didn't expect him to play that much. I mean, I did have him on fantasy, so that was nice to have him playing that way. But at the same time, too, it was like, I just didn't expect him. But Geno Smith had 395 yards, 56 passing attempts.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So when you say like they felt like they were playing from behind, they literally were playing from behind all game, but it felt like they were trying to play catch up. DK Metcalf, yes, he had 7 catches, but it felt like every time they would try to force something to him, he just couldn't come up with it. And that fumble, I really think, changed a lot of that game, because when he fumbled like that, it gave Detroit momentum, and they went down. I think that's when they scored their first touchdown. But like, either not, it scored their second touchdown. It just was one of these things where like Seattle had it there. The defense couldn't have stepped up enough. I mean, giving up 42 points you're not going to win many games that way.
No. And I don't know if you've seen where the Kenneth Walker, when the guy was trying to tackle him and he flips around, and even the commentators, I don't remember if it was Aikman or Buck, said, well, that looked like a WWE move.
It was, and it was
he kind of flipped him around, and then he kind of did like a flip forward, and he kept running. But his knee wasn't down, so
it was a pretty cool move. And then like when they showed the replay, I was like, his elbow had to hit. I knew his knee didn't, but I was like, his elbow had to. But can you imagine being the tackler in that situation where you're just like, get the F down?
Yeah, right.
But that was our Monday night game. I kind of want to recap real quick the NFL in general. So starting off with, let me get to it. Starting off, we had Denver and the Jets. Denver wins 10-9. It was a rainy, shitty game. But honestly, Aaron Rodgers couldn't step up. I think Sean Payton in this game could have done better as well. Vikings stay perfect, go 31-29 on Green Bay. Green Bay had a late run that almost brought them back. Atlanta wins 26-24 at the last-second field goal. A lot of injuries on that New Orleans side. We talked about Tampa Bay winning 33-16. Cincy gets a win, beating Carolina 34-24. Houston barely sneaks past the defeated Jacksonville. You had Indy winning 27-24, putting a loss to Pittsburgh. You had the Bears beating the Rams 24-18. Washington and that McDaniel. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Jane Daniels.
Jane Daniel. Oh my. 42-14 on Arizona. An ass beating. San Francisco wins 30-13 against New Orleans. Las Vegas wins 20-16 on Cleveland, and we need to talk about them soon. Kansas City wins 17-10. It was a kind of a close game all game. And then we said with Buffalo and Baltimore, 35-10. Tennessee wins 31-12 against a very, very bad Miami team. What did you think about this week?
I thought it was pretty good. The Broncos sold off the Jets. Jets had 13 penalties. They really had 15, but they only got accustomed to 13 penalties. That you ain't, and the Broncos only had 186 yards of offense, and they still won 10-9. I mean, that defense now is starting to step up. I think the Watson era in Cleveland is over. I think they need to make a move to somebody else. I think this may be the biggest bust in NFL history. I think he's done. I seen where Anthony Richardson got hurt again in the Colts Steelers game. Oh man, Joe Flacco came in and brought it back to a win. The Bengals got their first win, and I think the capper of the Chiefs. What are we doing with the Chiefs? They're 4-0. They have got to be the weirdest 4-0 team I've seen this year in both college football and this. They just keep winning. They just keep trucking along. Now with this Rashid Rice injury, now they got the next man is going to have to step up. So I don't know. That team is just hard to figure out. They just seem like they just win enough. They just win enough. Win and survive each week. So
yeah, I think that Chiefs team definitely just shows you what – I mean, I don't know how they do it, but I guess I wouldn't be surprised if they still find a way to win this year. But with all of these injuries, I mean, that Rashid, that hurts. That was a bad one. I mean, but you got Kareem Hunt coming back in the backfield. It looks like he's going to take a step forward with Carson Steele having another fumble this week. But I mean, now you're talking about Xavier Worthy. You found the tight end Travis Kelce. I mean, he started showing up. You also got Juju back there. So they still have options, and as long as you got Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, you got a chance to win. But I agree, they're just it's not a dominant team, but they find a way to win at the end, and that's all that matters. A win to win.
Yeah, most definitely.
But we do have some news starting this week off. Some big news. Von Miller today was found that he got suspended for 4 games violating conduct policy. I didn't see what policy, if it's it's from allegations that he assaulted his pregnant girlfriend in November of 2023. That's just huge. I mean, with the Buffalo Bills having that great game that we just talked about in the defense and blah, 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 Von Miller's had a great season so far, 4 games out. That is a huge loss to that defense.
Yeah, I mean, and they can't afford to have any more loss. I mean, they've got people. I mean, they were showing that team on Sunday night. 3 of their best players, Milano, a couple of their safeties are out, and Milano's out the whole year. He's always hurt. It seems like every year he gets like a tricep strain or something, and he seems like so. I mean, they can't afford to have any more people being out for any long period of time. So that's not good. That's not good. And anytime, I mean, I don't want to get into too much. When this stuff that's going on, that's not good. Come on, man.
Well, and this is with Rashee Rice and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When your personal life starts affecting how many games you play in the NFL, unfortunately, I can't say I'm a standing out citizen, but at the same time, too, I can say that I try to not do anything that's going to affect my money, and definitely if it was going to be millions of dollars. But no, in other news, Raiders open to trading Davante Adams. Sources are saying now Davante Adams, it was weird on Friday. I have him on my fantasy team. On Friday, he comes up with a hamstring injury, and then they're saying, well, he might be out for a couple weeks. And then we're on the Tuesday after the football this weekend. We're going to say, oh, the sources are saying that they're okay with trading him. I remember hearing Adams was a Raiders way, man. This is a Raiders kind of guy. I always felt after seeing that documentary on receivers, he wanted to get the hell out of there. And what team would be perfect for this situation? Hello, Jets. So what happens with this? But sources are saying, what do you think about that one?
Well, as we're hearing more about it, the coach didn't even know that he was demanding a trade. But on the Instagram post, it shows that Antonio Pierce is liking it. So is that an Antonio Pierce burner account or what's going on? But apparently there is rumors going around that maybe he went and talked to the owner and the GM about getting out. I think, has been wanting to get out anyway. The only reason why he went there is for Derek Carr. And, so then when they put they bench Carr, he's like, no, I'm still in. And he even fought to have Antonio Pierce take the interim tag off. So now, you wanted this coach here, and I knew that eventually this was going to not end well. Plus, then I think in the press conference, Antonio Pierce was saying that we need to make some business decisions around here. Well, you know what that means, don't you? We need to get rid of some payroll.
Yeah. And I think he made those comments because some of the players they were making business decisions. Because before that, he made that the players were making business decisions. And
Davante Adams is not that kind of a player. No way.
Yeah, no, I don't feel like he was talking about Davante in that scenario. I think he was talking about some of the players that weren't putting their head in the hole to make a tackle and stuff like that. But the whole thing with this is Davante was on a show today, and I didn't see what show it was, but he said that he hasn't even talked to Pierce about it. And it's like, so how did that situation even happen? So we'll see with that one. On other wide receiver news, Odell Beckham Jr. set to have his first practice with the Dolphins. That's great because they don't have a freaking quarterback to hold the ball anyways. Who gives a shit? I mean,
Yeah.
at this point, put his ass back at quarterback and let them just try to do wildcat all week.
Well, and you can, if you've seen on the sidelines, Tyreek Hill was not a happy camper after he came off the field at the end of the game. He was pretty much just he was exploding right on the side, right behind Josh, Mike, or is it Josh? Not Josh.
Mike McDaniel.
Mike McDaniels. So he's not. But you know what? I seen one play on him where they threw a screen pass and he drops it, and then he tries to push it out of bounds, and if the ball don't go out of bounds, he stops playing. What are you doing, Cheetah? Come on, you got to finish the play.
Well,
I mean, come on, man.
It ended up to be a fumble recovery for the other.
Yes, right.
Yeah, I mean, this year's over for them. I mean, the whole Tua situation and like, what the hell's happening with that? I saw him on the sideline. They have a bye within the IR, so like now you're kind of sitting here being like, well, I can't. I told you, and we've talked about this. I can't stand the coach. I hate when he talks where it's like, projecting every word perfectly, and he's got this. I just don't think he's the right guy in this situation. I think he's made Tua better than what he has. But Brian Flores, for the defense coordinator for the Vikings, when he was head coach at Miami, said he didn't handle that well enough either. But like, this situation in Miami is just a dumpster fire. Yeah. So like hearing that explain it there, it's like, well, it doesn't change anything because you can't throw the ball. I mean, Huntley very bad on Monday night, but
the bad deal for Huntley is that wouldn't he get there Thursday, Friday? So he didn't have a whole lot of time to practice with the team. I mean, they did play Monday night, but I mean, I like to see what he does this upcoming week because I think he'll get the first team reps. He'll get a whole week or pretty close to a whole week. I think it just was not a good scenario for them. I
don't even blame it on Huntley. I blame it on the coaching. Like, get him more running. Like, do you remember where he came from? He came from Baltimore. And he came when Lamar was out, and they still ran the ball with him. He's a bigger quarterback. He's got size. He's got speed. You can't just have him sit in the pocket all day. It's not who he is. You guys can't let him play timid. But, so that leads us into our upcoming, what's coming up next. Thursday night, we have a football game between the Buccaneers and the Falcons. And then on Friday, we have some college football. We have Michigan State versus Oregon and Syracuse versus UNLV. Now, on Friday night for recording Saturday when we post this, we're going to have a little discussion about this UNLV situation. Ranked number 25, had a big win last week, but they've been in the news for other reasons with that quarterback. We kind of want to talk about that, see what we think about this, and what the repercussions will be for college football because of a situation like this. But real quick, did you have anything you wanted to bring up about the Buccaneers and Falcons on Thursday night, since we won't be talking about it before our next podcast?
This should be a good game. I mean, you've got the Falcons, you got Bijan Robinson, Kirk Cousins at home, against, let's see what Mayfield does again this week on a short rest week. So, it's a division game, so this should be interesting. I think it could, both defenses are average at best. I mean, we could see some scoring going on.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think with the Buccaneers, they had a big win over the Eagles. But with Atlanta, I've been saying this now. If they start learning how to win these close games, which they had a great comeback drive with Kirk Cousins and everything that Kirk Cousins, he comes from Minnesota, and I hated him at one point in Minnesota, but then I loved him in Minnesota. I just feel like everything that everyone says bad about him, he finds a way to outdo it, right? He's not a guy that can play unless it's Sunday at noon. He's not a winner. He's shown that this year already. He's going to play on Thursday night. I root for him on the side, but I think he's got his hands full coming up. I think they got a couple injuries. Atlanta does. Buccaneers got some injuries, so we'll kind of see the NFL in general. A lot of hamstrings, a lot of injuries this year. It's almost impossible in fantasy this year. Some no names are going out every week to kind of play for you. But yeah, I did want to, before we head out of here, how'd you end up for betting this week?
I was 2 for 1. I won 2 games. I had the Lions given the 4, and then I had the Baltimore. Not so much on the Texans. The Texans won, but they did not cover. So I went 2-1. So that's a pretty good week, I think, betting wise.
Yep, I ended up 1-2. Saints with the over, or I'm sorry, Commanders and Cardinals with the over 48.5. The Commanders alone almost did that with Daniels. I will say, I don't know if we have not talked about that enough, but Daniels is a stud. Can he keep it up though? They kind of put a whomping on the Cardinals. On the other game, Saints and Atlanta and Saints. If I would have bet right before the game, it would have been 2.5. Doesn't matter anyways. They only won by 2. Bad beat on that one. Steelers versus Colts. I took Steelers with 2.5. Yeah, no way. Colts win this one. But yeah, overall 1-2, not bad, but at the same time could have been better. Good job with the 2-1. We will come back on Saturday. We'll record on Friday, so we will not know we'll know by then what the Thursday night game is, but not the Friday college football games. But we'll give on Saturday some of our must-watch games. We're going to give a little bit of that UNLV conversation as well. And then we'll give you your bet. We'll give our bets for that Saturday football as well. And then we'll be back on Sunday after that. If you guys like or comment or share, also remember this is on YouTube now. So if you did kind of want to put a face to it or see who's talking, you can always watch it on YouTube. If you do, subscribe on it as well. But we want to thank everyone. I hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you on Saturday.